A corrupt police sergeant with a sneer carved into his face laughs at a black woman after snatching her federal ID and calling it a cheap fake. He thinks he's untouchable, a king on his small stretch of asphalt kingdom, and she's just another subject to be crushed under the heel of his boot. But that sergeant, drenched in the arrogance of his uniform, has just made the biggest, and last, mistake of his career. This is the story of how one man's blinding prejudice led to his complete, total, and utterly satisfying destruction. The air on Highway 17 is a physical weight. It shimmers in waves above the blacktop, thick with the smell of sun-baked tar and the distant, cloying sweetness of Georgia pines. It's an oppressive heat, the kind that saps the will and makes tempers fray like old rope. Inside the cool, conditioned air of a decade-old sedan, Maya Reynolds keeps her hands steady on the wheel. Her knuckles are white, but her face is a mask of calm. A mask she has perfected over 15 years of professional necessity. Beside her, her father, Samuel, breathes in soft, shallow puffs. His eyes, clouded with the gentle confusion of age, gaze out at the blur of green and brown. A thin line of sweat beads on his temple, just below a wisp of silver hair. He is 78 years of age, a man built from kindness and quiet dignity, now made frail by the simple, cruel passage of time. The flashing lights appear in the rearview mirror with the silent, predatory speed of a shark. Red. Blue. Red. Blue. They paint the interior of the car in strobing, anxious colors. Maya's heart doesn't jump. It sinks. A slow, heavy descent into a place she knows too well. She checks her speed. 64 in a 65 zone. Her seatbelt is on. Her father's is on. The car's registration and insurance are current, tucked neatly in the glove compartment. She has broken no law. But she knows, with a certainty that chills her despite the heat, that the law has very little to do with what is about to happen. She signals, her movements economical and precise, and pulls the car onto the gravel shoulder. The crunch of the tires is unnervingly loud in the sudden silence. She puts the car in park, turns off the engine, and places her hands at 10 and 2 on the steering wheel, just as she was taught. Just as she now teaches others. The police cruiser, a black and white beast of a vehicle, parks directly behind them, its grille a menacing snarl in her mirror. The bubble lights continue their silent, accusatory dance. A door slams. Footsteps on gravel. Heavy. Deliberate. Each crunch a tick of a clock counting down to confrontation. A figure looms in her driver's side window, blocking out the sun. He is a mountain of a man, squeezed into a khaki uniform that strains at the shoulders and belly. The name tag reads, Denton. Above it, the chevrons of a sergeant. His face is a slab of weathered granite, dominated by a thick mustache that does little to hide the permanent sneer etched into his lips. Mirrored sunglasses hide his eyes, turning him into an impersonal instrument of intimidation. He doesn't speak. He just stands there, letting the silence and his presence do the work. It's a classic tactic. Establish dominance. Make them sweat. Maya does not sweat. She waits. Finally, he raps his knuckles sharply on the glass. Not a polite tap, but a hard, demanding crack of bone against the window. She presses the button, and the window glides down with a soft whir. The oppressive heat immediately floods the car. License and registration, he says. The voice is a low rumble, a gravelly sound that seems to come from deep within his barrel chest. It is not a request. It is a command issued from a throne. Good afternoon, Sergeant, Maya says, her voice even and respectful. She keeps her hands visible as she reaches slowly for the glove compartment. May I ask why I was pulled over? Denton shifts his weight, the leather of his duty belt creaking. A small, humorless smile plays on his lips. You can ask. License. And registration. Now. Maya retrieves the documents and passes them out the window. Denton snatches them from her hand. His eyes, hidden behind the silvered lenses, scan the papers with theatrical slowness. From the passenger side, another officer approaches. He is younger, leaner, with the uncertain posture of a rookie. His name tag reads Miller. He peers into the car, his eyes landing on Samuel, and offers a hesitant, almost apologetic nod. Everything all right over here, Pops? Denton asks, his voice dripping with a condescending familiarity that makes Maya's jaw tighten. He doesn't look at Samuel when he speaks, his attention is fixed on Maya, a predator studying its prey. Samuel turns, his brow furrowed in confusion. "Were we speeding, officer?" he asks, his voice soft and raspy with age. Denton lets out a short, sharp bark of a laugh. "Were we speeding?" "No, you weren't speeding. Your left rear tire touched the white line on the shoulder back there." Failure to maintain lane, he says it with the bored indifference of a man who has manufactured 1,000 similar justifications. It's a lie, and they both know it. It's a lie that doesn't even try to sound like the truth. "I see," Maya says, her voice betraying no emotion. "I apologize if I drifted, Sergeant. The road is a bit uneven here." "The road is fine," Denton snaps back, his patience, a commodity he never possessed, already gone. He leans down, his face now level with hers, the smell of stale coffee and self-importance washing over her. "Were you headed in such a hurry?" "Visiting family in Savannah," Maya replies. "My father lives with me. We're just taking a trip." Denton's gaze flicks to Samuel, then back to Maya. He takes in her crisp, professional attire, a simple but well-tailored blazer over a silk blouse, and her calm, intelligent face. He sees her father, elderly and vulnerable. He puts the pieces together and arrives at a conclusion steeped in his own sour prejudice. "Right. Family," he says, drawing the word out as if it's a foreign concept. He taps her license against his thick thumb. "Maya Reynolds. That a fancy name? You got a fancy job to go with that fancy name." The question hangs in the humid air, an insult masquerading as curiosity. "I have a job, yes," Maya says, refusing to take the bait. Her calmness seems to infuriate him. It is a denial of his power, a rejection of the fear he expects and demands. He straightens up, puffing out his chest. "You know, we've been having some trouble on this highway," he says, his voice taking on a conspiratorial tone, as if he's sharing a great secret. "People moving things they shouldn't be moving." "You wouldn't know anything about that, would you, Maya?" The accusation is as blatant as it is baseless. It is the second rung on the ladder of escalation. "No, Sergeant, I would not," she says. The mask is still in place, but behind it, a cold fire is beginning to burn. "He's tired," Samuel says suddenly, his voice thin but clear. "My daughter is a good driver. We've done nothing wrong." It is the wrong thing to say. It is a challenge, however gentle, to the sergeant's absolute authority. Denton's head snaps toward the old man. The sneer deepens. "Did I ask you, old man?" "I'm talking to the driver. You keep your mouth shut unless you're spoken to." The cruelty is casual, reflexive. It's the cruelty of a man swatting a fly. "Sir, there's no need to speak to my father that way," Maya says, and for the first time, a sliver of steel enters her voice. Denton turns back to her, a slow, deliberate movement. The humorless smile is back, wider this time. He has found the nerve. He has found the leverage. "Is that right?" he says softly. "I think I'll speak to him however I want. And I think you'll sit there and let me. Now, I'm going to ask you to step out of the vehicle, ma'am." For a tire touching the white line, she challenges, her voice still level, but the question is a clear refusal to bend. "No," Denton says, his smile vanishing, replaced by a mask of pure, unadulterated power. "Because I have a reasonable suspicion that you are transporting illegal narcotics. Now, get out of the car. Both of you." The lie is complete. The pretense is over. This is no longer a traffic stop. It is an exercise in humiliation. The rookie, Miller, shifts his feet on the gravel, his discomfort now visible. "Sarge," he begins, his voice low, "maybe we just write the warning Ann." "Did you have something to say, Miller?" Denton cuts him off without even looking at him. The threat in his voice is unmistakable. It speaks of locker room lectures, of bad assignments, of a career stalled before it has even begun. Miller's mouth snaps shut. He looks away, his gaze falling on a distant billboard, suddenly fascinated by an advertisement for a local diner. He is a good man, perhaps, but not a brave one. In this moment, on this roadside, his cowardice makes him complicit. He has chosen his side. Maya sees the exchange, registers it, and files it away. She knows there will be no help from that quarter. She is alone. Her and her father. "Sergeant, you have no probable cause to search my vehicle," she states, her voice ringing with the clear, cold authority of someone who knows the law better than he does. Denton's face flushes a dark, angry red. To be challenged on procedure, by her, is an intolerable offense. "Probable cause is what I say it is," he snarls, his hand moving to rest on the butt of his sidearm. "It's not a threat of violence, not yet. It's a reminder of where the real power lies. I smell marijuana. That's my probable cause. Happy now." Another lie. The car smells of old books and the faint, clean scent of her father's aftershave. Now, for the last time, Denton growls, his voice dropping to a menacing whisper. "Get out of the car." Maya makes a calculated decision. Resisting here, on this lonely stretch of highway, with this man, will only end one way. Badly. Her father is her priority. His safety is paramount. She can fight this battle later, in a different arena. She unlocks the door. "Okay, Sergeant. We're getting out." She helps her father from the car. Samuel is unsteady on his feet, his hand trembling as he leans on the door for support. The heat hits him like a physical blow, and he winces. Hands on the roof of the car. "Both of you. Spread, Denton barks, enjoying his moment of command. Maya places her hands on the hot metal, her blazer falling open slightly. She guides her father to do the same, his old, wrinkled hands looking fragile against the dusty paintwork. Denton begins his search. It is not a search. It is a violation. He doesn't look for anything, he rips and tears. He pulls the contents of the glove compartment and throws them onto the passenger seat. He yanks open the center console. He moves to the back, pulling at their neatly packed suitcases. "Find anything interesting, Sergeant?" Maya asks, her voice dripping with ice. He ignores her. He is a child throwing a tantrum, breaking toys because he can. Miller stands by, a silent, miserable statue. He refuses to meet Maya's eyes. "What's this?" Denton says, emerging from the back seat. He's holding a small, orange prescription bottle. He unscrews the cap and spills the pills into his hand. "Lot of pills here for an old fella." "That is my father's heart medication," Maya says, her voice dangerously low. "Put them back. Now." Denton looks at the pills, then at her. He smirks, a truly ugly expression, and tosses the bottle onto the floor of the car. A few of the small, white pills scatter under the seat. Oops. Butterfingers. That is the moment. The breaking point. The moral event horizon. It is one thing to harass her. It is another to endanger her father. The cold, controlled fire within her erupts into a white-hot inferno. The mask doesn't crack, it vaporizes. "That's enough," she says. Her voice is no longer calm or respectful. It is the voice of command. The voice of someone whose patience has not just been exhausted, but annihilated. Denton turns, surprised by the change in her tone. He sees a different woman now. Not a victim, but a threat. He walks towards her, his posture aggressive, his body language screaming dominance. "What did you say to me?" he says, getting right in her face. He is inches away, a wall of angry, sweating flesh. "I said," Maya repeats, her eyes locking with his mirrored sunglasses, boring into the hateful gaze she knows is behind them, "that is enough." She makes a slow, deliberate move, reaching for the purse still slung over her shoulder. "Don't you move." Denton bellows, his hand instinctively going to his gun again. Miller, startled into action, finally speaks up. "Sarge, hold on. Stay out of this, Miller." Maya ignores them both. Her movements are fluid, economical, and utterly without fear. She opens her purse and retrieves a slim, black leather wallet. She flips it open. Inside, nestled in a custom-cut recess, is a gleaming, golden badge. Above it, under a clear plastic window, is a government identification card. The badge is not from some local department. It is not a state credential. The eagle at its center is fierce and unmistakable. "Sergeant K. Denton," she says, her voice as cold and hard as a glacier. You are interfering with a federal officer in the performance of her duties. Denton stares at the badge. His brain, so accustomed to a world where he is the sole authority, struggles to process what it is seeing. He squints, leans closer. Then, he begins to laugh. It is not a pleasant sound. It is a harsh, braying laugh filled with contempt and disbelief. Oh, that is rich, he chokes out, slapping his thigh. A fake badge. You think that's gonna work? Honey, I've seen better fakes come out of a cereal box. He snatches the wallet from her hand, his thick fingers fumbling with the unfamiliar object. He holds the badge up to the sunlight, turning it over and over. Department of Homeland Security, he reads, his voice mocking. Special Agent Maya Reynolds. Oh, scary. You must be a real big shot. He looks at her, his eyes filled with a triumphant, cruel glee. He believes he has caught her in a pathetic, desperate lie. This, to him, is the ultimate confirmation of his own superiority. A black woman trying to pretend she has power. The idea is, to him, absurd. You know, impersonating a federal officer is a serious crime, he says, wagging the wallet in her face. A real serious crime. Looks like you and Grandpa are going to be taking a trip downtown after all. A much longer trip than you planned. He turns to Miller, a wide, predatory grin splitting his face. Miller, what do you think? You ever see such a cheap piece of tin? Miller just stares, his face pale. He is looking at the badge, but he is also looking at the absolute, unwavering certainty in Maya's eyes. A seed of doubt, a massive, terrifying seed, is planting itself in his gut. Maya doesn't say a word. She doesn't need to. She simply watches Denton, her expression unreadable, her posture relaxed. She is waiting. What's the matter, cat got your tongue? Denton taunts, enjoying her silence. No more big talk. No more, that's enough. He tosses the wallet onto the hood of her car with a contemptuous flick of his wrist. You are in a world of trouble. You have no idea. And that is when the sound begins. It starts as a low hum, a vibration felt more than heard. A deep, resonant thrum that seems to come from the very air around them. Denton pauses, his head cocked. What the hell is that? The hum grows louder, resolving itself into the sound of multiple, powerful engines. Over the crest of the hill behind them, they appear. Not one, but four. Four black, unmarked Chevrolet Suburbans, their tinted windows reflecting the harsh sunlight like obsidian mirrors. They move in perfect, menacing formation, eating up the asphalt with an unnerving speed and silence. They don't have their sirens on. They don't need them. Their presence alone is a siren. They sweep onto the shoulder, boxing in the police cruiser and Maya's sedan with chilling, tactical precision. One pulls ahead, blocking any escape. Two flank them. The last one pulls up tight behind Denton's cruiser. The entire maneuver takes less than 10 seconds. Doors on all four vehicles open in unison. Men and women emerge, a dozen of them, all dressed in black tactical gear over civilian clothes. They wear earpieces and carry themselves with the quiet, coiled intensity of true professionals. Several are armed with rifles, held at a low, ready position. They form a perimeter, their movements economical and disciplined. They do not look at Denton or Miller. They look past them, through them, their focus entirely on Maya. The world on this stretch of Highway 17 has just shrunk to the size of this gravel shoulder. And the balance of power has just shifted so violently it has cracked the foundations of Sergeant Denton's universe. Denton stands frozen, his mouth slightly agape. The sneer has been wiped from his face, replaced by a slack-jawed expression of pure, uncomprehending shock. His mind, a blunt instrument of ego and prejudice, is failing to compute the scene unfolding before him. The passenger door of the lead Suburban opens. A man steps out. He is tall, impeccably dressed in a tailored gray suit that seems immune to the Georgia heat. He has silver hair, a lined, serious face, and eyes that radiate an intelligence and authority that makes Denton's brand of backroad bullying seem like a child's game. He walks not to Denton, but directly to Maya. Agent Reynolds, he says, his voice calm and resonant. You're secure. Is your father all right? He's fine, Director, Maya replies, her voice finally losing its icy control, replaced by a quiet warmth. Just a little shaken. Director Evans, this is my father, Samuel. The man, Director Evans, turns to Samuel and extends a hand. His entire demeanor softens. Samuel, it's an honor to meet you. I'm sorry you had to go through this. We'll have you on your way in just a moment. Samuel, bewildered, shakes his hand. Director Evans then turns his gaze upon Sergeant Denton. The warmth vanishes. His eyes become chips of ice. The full, crushing weight of his authority descends upon the officer. Denton flinches as if struck. The color drains from his face, leaving behind a pasty, gray pallor. The sweat on his brow is no longer from the heat, it is the cold sweat of dawning, abject terror. He looks from the director, to Maya, to the golden badge still sitting on the hood of her car. The cheap piece of tin. The cereal box fake. His brain finally connects the dots, and the resulting picture is one of his own personal apocalypse. Denton stammers, his booming voice reduced to a pathetic, strangled squeak. He looks at Maya, his eyes wide with a desperate, pleading panic. There's been a misunderstanding. Maya looks back at him, her face impassive. She doesn't offer him a lifeline. She doesn't offer him anything. She just watches him drown. Director Evans takes a step closer to Denton. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't need to. His quiet words carry more menace than all of Denton's bellows. Sergeant Cade Denton, he says, his voice a low, dangerous purr. I am Assistant Director Marcus Evans of the Department of Homeland Security, Office of Internal Affairs. And you have not had a misunderstanding. He pauses, letting the words sink in, letting the silence stretch until it is screaming. You have just become the star witness in the case against yourself. The deconstruction is not a storm, it is a clinical dissection. It is swift, merciless, and executed with the passionless precision of a surgeon removing a tumor. Sergeant Denton, Director Evans begins, his tone conversational, as if discussing the weather. We've been aware of you for quite some time. 6 months, to be precise. Operation Roadside King, we called it. Rather fitting, don't you think? Denton just stares, his mind a maelstrom of denial and fear. This cannot be happening. It is a dream. A nightmare. You see, we started getting reports, Evans continues, strolling casually around the perimeter of the scene, his hands clasped behind his back. Anonymous tips at first. Then, formal complaints. A pattern began to emerge. A pattern of traffic stops with no legal basis. A pattern of searches without probable cause. A pattern that disproportionately targeted minorities and out-of-state license plates. He stops and looks at Denton. A pattern that often ended with cash disappearing from wallets and valuables going missing from vehicles. Funny how that happens. From one of the Suburbans, another agent emerges. She carries a tablet. She hands it to Evans. Let's start with today, Evans says, his eyes flicking to the screen. The stop was initiated at 14:32 hours. The stated reason, according to your transmission to dispatch, was failure to maintain lane. However, the high-resolution optics from our drone surveillance, we've had a drone following you for the past 72 hours, by the way, shows the vehicle in question, a Toyota Camry, license plate GBX 3-2-1, never once touched the white line. He looks up. That's perjury on an official report, Sergeant. A federal offense when it's used to violate a citizen's civil rights. Denton opens his mouth, but no sound comes out. His throat is a desert. Then, Evans continues, swiping a finger across the screen, you claim to have probable cause for a search based on the smell of marijuana. We have a full audio recording of this entire interaction, thanks to the microphone Agent Reynolds is wearing. A very sensitive microphone. It can pick up a whisper at 50 feet. It can also analyze airborne particulates. The analysis shows 0 cannabinoids in the air. It does show trace elements of coffee, cheap chewing tobacco, and, well, your own flop sweat. A few of the agents allow themselves thin, cold smiles. That's filing a false report. Another offense, Evans swipes the screen again. Then there's the matter of the pills you so carelessly spilled. That could be construed as tampering with evidence, or more accurately, the deliberate destruction of life-sustaining medication. We could ask a jury what they think. The rookie, Miller, looks like he's about to be sick. He is staring at his superior officer as if seeing him for the first time, not as a powerful sergeant, but as a cornered, pathetic criminal. But this isn't just about today, is it, Cade? Evans says, using his first name with a familiarity that is more insulting than any slur. This is about a career. Let's talk about March 12th. The stop of the Garcia family. You cited a broken tail light. Our surveillance shows it was working perfectly. You confiscated $700 in cash you claimed was suspected drug money. It was their rent money. It never made it to the evidence locker. He swipes. Or April 2nd. Mr. Deshaun Williams. You pulled him over for tinted windows. Your department's own light meter, which you conveniently failed to use, would have shown they were street legal. You arrested him on a trumped-up resisting charge after he protested the illegal search of his car. The charge was dropped, but he spent 48 hours in a cell and lost his job. Evans's voice is a relentless hammer, each word another nail in Denton's coffin. We have financial records, Sergeant. We have them from the tow truck company that gives you a kickback for every car you impound on this stretch of road. We have testimony from the pawn shop owner who fences the jewelry you lift during your illegal searches. We have sworn statements from 3 other officers in your precinct who were tired of watching you disgrace their uniform. He turns the tablet around. It shows a series of text messages. Denton's name is at the top. The messages are to another officer, bragging about a recent stop, complete with racial slurs and a picture of a gold watch he had pocketed. Your whole rotten little empire, Cade. It's all here. And then, the final betrayal. Evans turns his gaze to Officer Miller. The rookie freezes, a deer caught in the headlights of an oncoming train. Officer Miller, Evans says, his voice softening slightly, becoming almost gentle. You're young. You've been on the force less than a year. You have a choice to make, right here, right now. You can go down with this sinking ship, an accessory to federal crimes, and spend the best years of your life in a prison cell. Or, you can be a police officer. A real one. And you can tell us the truth. Miller looks at Denton. He sees no support there, only a desperate, silent plea for loyalty. A loyalty Denton himself had never shown anyone. He sees the ruin of a man who had terrorized and bullied him since his first day. Then he looks at Maya. He sees the quiet dignity she has maintained through this whole ordeal. He sees the badge she carries, a symbol of a law that is supposed to be just, a law he once believed in. The dam of his fear and resentment breaks. He does it all the time, Miller blurts out, the words tumbling out of him in a rush. All the time. He calls it roadside fishing. He tells me to look for old cars, out-of-state plates, or people of color. He says they're easier targets. Less likely to complain. He said if I wanted to make it in his unit, I had to learn how to play the game. He falsifies reports. I've seen him do it. He plants things. Last month, he had a baggie of oregano he was going to use to scare some college kids, but they paid him off before he had to. He's crying now, fat tears of shame and relief rolling down his cheeks. I'm sorry. I was scared of him. He threatened to have me fired. I'm so sorry. It is over. If there was any doubt, any sliver of hope in Denton's mind, it is now extinguished. His own partner, his own rookie, has just delivered the eulogy for his career. Denton finally shatters. The facade of the tough, untouchable cop dissolves into the pathetic rage of a cornered animal. You snake, he screams at Miller, his voice a ragged shriek. You little rat. I'll kill you. This is a setup. A witch hunt. He turns his fury on Evans. You have no right. This is my jurisdiction. You federal clowns can't just come down here and... That's where you're wrong, Sergeant, Evans interrupts, his voice cutting through Denton's tirade like a razor. Violation of civil rights under the color of authority is a federal crime. It falls squarely within our jurisdiction. And you, sir, are a one-man crime wave. Evans nods to one of his agents. Play it. The agent taps a button on a handheld device. A speaker crackles to life. And Denton's own voice fills the air. It's a recording, tinny and clear. The background noise is a locker room. Laughter. A slamming door. And Denton's voice, loud and proud, bragging to another officer. So I tell the guy, I say, son, your taillight is busted, and he gets all lippy, right? So I drag his black ass out of the car, toss him against the hood. Found a couple grand in the glove box. Easy money. He starts crying about his sick kid. I told him he should have thought of that before driving while black on my highway. The recording clicks off. The silence that follows is absolute. It is a heavy, damning silence, broken only by the distant caw of a crow. Every person on that roadside has heard it. The unfiltered, unadulterated poison of his soul, broadcast for all to hear. Denton's face is no longer pale. It is the color of ash. His body seems to shrink, to collapse in on itself. The mountain of a man is now just a sad, defeated hulk of flesh in a khaki uniform. Director Evans turns to Maya. He gives a slight, almost imperceptible nod. It is her moment. Maya walks slowly, deliberately, until she is standing directly in front of Denton. She picks up her wallet from the hood of the car, the golden badge seeming to catch and amplify the afternoon sun. She doesn't put it away. She holds it in her hand. Sergeant Denton, she says, her voice quiet but carrying to every corner of the scene. Turn around. Place your hands behind your back. For a moment, he doesn't move. He just stares at her, his eyes finally visible as his sunglasses have slipped down his nose. They are filled with a pathetic cocktail of hatred, disbelief, and pleading. Two of the federal agents step forward, their presence an unspoken promise of overwhelming force. Denton's shoulders slump in final, total defeat. He turns, his movements slow and clumsy, and places his hands behind his back. One of the agents takes Denton's service weapon from its holster and clears it. Another produces a pair of gleaming steel handcuffs. The click of the cuffs locking into place is the loudest sound in the world. It is the sound of a career ending. A life imploding. The sound of justice. Then, Director Evans steps forward. He reaches out and, with two fingers, plucks the sergeant's badge from the front of Denton's uniform. The two small pins make a tearing sound as they pull free from the fabric. He holds it up for a moment, letting it twist in the light, before dropping it into an evidence bag. Stripped. Publicly. In front of his rookie partner. In front of his victim. In front of the very authority he had mocked and dismissed. The humiliation is absolute. It is a work of art. Maya steps up to the cuffed, broken man. She leans in close, her voice a whisper meant only for him. You looked at my 78-year-old father, who served this country for 30 years in the army, and you saw a target. You looked at me, and you saw a woman you could bully. You saw my skin color, and you saw a victim. She pauses, letting him feel the weight of every word. You never saw the truth. You never saw a daughter protecting her father. You never saw a federal agent who has spent her life hunting men exactly like you. Monsters who hide behind a badge. She straightens up, her voice returning to its normal volume for all to hear. Your mistake wasn't pulling me over, Denton. Your mistake was your prejudice. It blinded you. You were so convinced of your own power, so certain of my powerlessness, that you couldn't see the trap closing until it was too late. She turns and walks away, leaving him standing there in his shame, a fallen king in his ruined, blacktop kingdom. The fallout is not a single event, it is a cleansing fire. Sergeant K. Denton's trial is swift. With the mountain of evidence, drone footage, audio recordings, financial records, the testimony of Officer Miller, and a dozen other victims who come forward, his defense is a pathetic whisper against a hurricane of facts. He is convicted on all counts. Racketeering, deprivation of rights under color of law, extortion, obstruction of justice. The judge, a stern woman with no patience for corrupt officers, sentences him to 25 years in a federal penitentiary. No parole. His pension is seized. His assets are frozen. The name Denton becomes a stain, a cautionary tale whispered to rookies at the academy. He enters prison not as a feared cop, but as a convicted felon, stripped of the only power he ever had. He is just another number in a world that eats bullies for breakfast. The fire spreads. The investigation, sparked by Denton's spectacular implosion, consumes the corrupt corners of his department. The tow truck operator is indicted. The pawn shop owner is arrested. 3 other officers, including the one Denton was bragging to on the locker room tape, are charged. The chief of police is forced to resign in disgrace. The entire department is placed under a federal consent decree, a long and painful process of reform forced upon it from the outside. For the villains, the ruin is total and absolute. For the heroes, the rewards are quiet but profound. Officer Miller, now just Miller, becomes the government's star witness. He testifies with a raw, painful honesty that earns him a plea deal and a second chance. He is not fired. Instead, he is sent for retraining. He returns to the force a different man, humbled, wiser, and dedicated to the ideals he nearly abandoned on that dusty roadside. He becomes a fierce advocate for reform from within, his voice carrying the weight of experience. Samuel Reynolds recovers from the ordeal, his quiet dignity intact. The fear he felt is replaced by a deep, swelling pride in his daughter. He sees her not just as his child, but as a warrior for justice. Their bond, already strong, is forged into something unbreakable. The government, through a victim restitution fund established with Denton's seized assets, covers his medical expenses and provides a handsome sum for his pain and suffering. And Maya. Special Agent Maya Reynolds is given a commendation from the Director of Homeland Security himself. She is quietly promoted to Section Chief, leading the very task force that brought Denton down. She becomes a legend within the agency, a testament to the power of patience, planning, and righteous anger. She doesn't seek the spotlight. She seeks the next case, the next Denton, the next shadow that needs to be dragged into the light. Her victory is not in the headlines, but in the quiet knowledge that the world is a little bit safer, a little bit fairer, because of what she did on that hot Georgia highway. 1 year later. The room is filled with new faces. Young, eager, diverse. They are the next generation of federal agents, and they sit in rapt attention in a sterile briefing room at the DHS training facility in Quantico. At the front of the room stands Section Chief Maya Reynolds. She is dressed in a sharp, dark suit, her posture radiating a calm, unshakable authority. On the large screen behind her is a photograph, Sergeant Cade Denton's mugshot. His face is bloated, his eyes hollow and defeated. "This is Cade Denton," Maya says, her voice filling the room. He was not a master criminal. He was not a brilliant tactician. He was a bully with a badge. And his greatest weakness, the flaw that brought down his entire criminal enterprise, was his arrogance. His prejudice. She clicks a remote. The screen changes to an aerial photograph of the scene on Highway 17. The black Suburbans, the police cruiser, the small sedan boxed in. He believed the world worked a certain way, she continues. He believed that a uniform gave him absolute power. He believed that the color of a person's skin or the age of their car told him everything he needed to know about them. He saw stereotypes, not people. And because he was blind to the person in front of him, he was blind to the threat. She looks out at the faces of the recruits. Your greatest weapon is not your firearm. It is not your authority. It is your perception. Your ability to see people for who they are, not who you assume them to be. Arrogance is a cancer in law enforcement. It leads to mistakes. It leads to injustice. And as you can see from the case of Sergeant Denton, it leads to a 25-year prison sentence. Later that day, Maya is at a community outreach event in her hometown. It's a small park festival, filled with the sounds of laughter and local music. She is out of her suit, dressed in jeans and a simple shirt, just a daughter spending a Saturday with her father. Samuel is sitting on a park bench, watching children fly kites. He looks healthier, more relaxed than he has in years. He smiles as a young police officer approaches him. The officer is not wearing a severe khaki uniform, but a more approachable blue polo shirt. It's Miller. Miller kneels down to speak with Samuel, his face open and respectful. He asks about his health. He thanks him. They share a small laugh. There is no fear between them, only a shared history and a mutual respect. Maya watches from a distance, a small, genuine smile on her face. This is the new reality. This is the change she fought for. Not just a villain punished, but a system healing. A bridge being built where once there was only a wall of contempt. Power built on a foundation of prejudice is not power at all, it is a fortress made of sand, waiting for the tide of justice to rise. A badge, a gun, a uniform, these are tools. they can be used to build or to destroy. True strength is not in the authority you wield, but in the integrity with which you wield it. Cade Denton believed he was a king, but he was nothing more than a coward who confused cruelty with strength. He learned, in the harsh glare of flashing red and blue lights that were not his own, that justice can be patient. It can watch, and it can wait. But when it arrives with overwhelming force, and it always has the final word.